Today, I'm going to show you how to edit an image in NIK Software to look like fall. So this image here is straight out of the camera. As you can see, I am using Apple Aperture as my editing software, and I'm going to take this image from Aperture into NIK Software to work on it. If you are a Lightroom user, you are going to be able to use NIK Software in conjunction with Lightroom just the same way. You'd be able to import an image just like you would any image into any plugin that you use. So the first thing I'm going to do in Aperture is make a copy of the image. And I like to duplicate the image first because if I don't like, for some reason, the edit I've done in NIK Software, it's really simple for me to just delete that edited image and go back to the original. So to move into NIK Software, I'm going to go to Photos, Edit with Plugin, and click on Color Effects Pro. Color Effects Pro is one of the modules within NIK Software. Okay, so here we are in NIK Software, and you see the image already looks different, and that's because since Indian Summer was the last action that I used within Color Effects, it will automatically apply that action to any new image I bring in. Of course, you don't have to keep that if you weren't looking to make your image fall. You can just X out of the Indian Summer, and there's our image. Plain and simple, straight out of the camera, exactly like we brought it in. But in this case, we do want to use Indian Summer, which is the action that will give us that fall look. So I'm going to click on Indian Summer in our menu bar over here to the left. And you see our image got really orange looking, or very fall looking, way too much for us here in South Florida. So I'm just going to dial that back a little bit so that we don't enhance the image that much. And I'm going to take it to about, I think 17% is probably going to look pretty realistic for South Florida. And just so you see, there's also a drop-down menu here, and there's 4 different types of color enhancements for this particular action. And obviously this is just going to be personal preference, but I think for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to stick with number 1. So if that's all you had wanted to do was just add a little bit of a fall look to your image, you can see it was really simple. We just clicked Indian Summer and that's it. You could click Save and go back to your editing software and you're done. No masking, no layering. However, in this particular image, I do want to add light to my subject's face, so we're going to do that as well. But actually, let me mention before we do that, that Indian Summer is really a great action to use because the action will only apply to items that are green in your image. So if you're trying to turn an outside image into a fall-looking image, your subject's skin color is really not going to change unless your subject has very green skin. If that's the case, however, that's okay, because rather than applying the action to the entire image, you can use what's called control points here. So all you would have to do is click the plus sign, and I'll actually do that for you, and you can apply that action to a specific radius, and if I click on this you can see the radius, and now that particular area has that action applied to it, but not the rest of the image. So I can use as many control points as I want and get the same effect as if I had applied that particular action to the entire image without affecting my subject. Now in my particular case, I think it looks just fine if we apply it to the entire image, so I'm going to X out of that, click Indian Summer again, take it back down to 17%, which is where I had it, and we're good to go. So now to add a little bit of light to my subject's face, I'm going to click on Add Filter. And over here in my menu bar, I'm going to find Darken, Lighten, Center. And what this is going to do is it's going to add light to the center of my image and dark to the outside of my image, as if you were adding a vignette. But I don't want to add the light to the center of the image, so I'm going to actually place the center by clicking on this Place Center point. and placing the center directly on her face, which is where I want the light to go. The amount of light, or the radius of the light that we've just added, is based on this center size here. So I'm going to dial that back so we don't have as much light being added to the image, just really around her face. The center luminosity determines the amount of light we're adding, or the percentage of light we're adding to the image. The border luminosity is the dark to the image, or the outside of the image. So I really didn't want to make the rest of the image, or the outside of the image, dark. So by taking it from negative 50% to 0, I am actually taking the border to the same color it was when I brought the image into NIK Software. If I actually wanted to lighten up the outside, I could do that as well. Devignetting is that process. But I'm going to leave it at 0. And that's really what I want the image to look like. Now at this point, if I was just doing the one image, saving the recipe wouldn't be necessary. However, if I had, let's say, 20 or 30 images that I wanted to apply the same effects to, I could click on Save Recipe, and I can name this recipe, let's say we'll name it Outside Maternity, and we'll click OK. And now I can bring a multitude of images into NIK Software and just apply at one time the recipe to all of the images. So I can batch edit 20, 30, 50 images in a matter of seconds. Now I'm going to click Save, and by clicking Save, I'm taking the image back into Apple Aperture. And at this point, I can make any additional adjustments that I want to make to the image. So I think what I want to do is just add a teeny tiny bit of contrast to the image. And I think I'm also going to add a sharpen layer to the image by clicking Sharpen. And that's it. So my image is complete. I think that's the way I want it to look. And that's how you edit an image to look like fall in NIK Software. Oh, and by the way, really quick, sorry for that. Let's go back and take a look at the difference between the original image and the edited image in NIK Software.